And here we've got everything in front of us. Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we are at the Buena Park coin show in Orange County, California. My wife is behind the camera, thanks for helping film, but we're going to be going around. I spoke early to the show director and he was saying we can't take sweeping shots of the floor so that we can protect people's privacy, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be able to do in terms of interviews and content in there, but I'm going to be meeting up with a couple of people that I already know to purchase coins from them. That's funny, we had somebody beep at us, but I'm hoping that we can flip through some people's boxes on camera. Maybe I can give a little of an analysis of how I'm approaching buying coins out of a box or not, but let's go inside. And again, not sure what this video is going to look like, but hopefully we'll have some time to interview a couple of the dealers here. It's a big show after Long Beach was canceled, which was kind of the premier Southern California coin show. Now they're maybe going to like a once a year situation instead of more regular, so time to head in. And we're back from the show, and I felt that it went really, really well. I feel like the biggest bummer was that they really had a pretty strict no-film policy, which I totally get it. Apparently, there were some security issues where people had, maybe videoed the event and then scoped it out and came back in and stole coins out of dealers' cases in the past. It sounded terrible, and I am going to go by the rules. So basically got no footage from inside of the venue, but I would say that it was a very active show. Most of the dealers, if they had stock that was fairly interesting, seemed like their tables were really full. It seemed like there were a lot of folks selling silver and kind of modern bullion. That seemed to be a big theme, but as you know, that's a little bit less what I'm there at a show to go and do. So I feel like if I recounted it, it seemed really positive, and you could probably have found something whoever you are, in going. And I feel like there's a lot of good lessons in that. Coin shows are such a great place to just meet more people in the hobby. That's something that I did. I actually connected with somebody who really knows about Condor tokens, and I'm really hoping that in the next couple of months, I'll be able to make a couple of show and tell videos with him and his collection, and we can kind of talk through some of the fascinating information that regarding basically copper bronze coins struck in the 1790s to the 1810s in England, and really delve into their coin history and sort of early American, what the whole commerce system would have looked like regarding coins. But on another front, there were a bunch of good coin deals to be had. I generally have noticed that connecting with old friend dealers was a big thing. So I got a nice group, a lot of Shipwreck, and a bunch of other interesting coins from an old friend. He had mentioned that the line for getting a dealer like exhibition booth has way expanded, and he basically had to do the show or else he was going to lose his table. And given that the Long Beach show is not really regularly happening anymore, or it's really unclear what that situation is going to be, he felt like he had to do it. So he stayed there. It seemed like things were pretty active. And again, I spent about $7,225. And then some of the other dealers that I visited, I would say there was one new connection that I purchased a coin from. Really nice guy. I did feel he was ancients focused. I felt like, obviously, I am going to buy with an intent to resell for most of the coins that I'm buying at a show. Sometimes I'll find something for my collection, but often those are going to be online, the ones where it's really collection driven. And so I don't think that he had as strong of an internet presence, so it wasn't like he's selling on Whatnot or on eBay. And so had a very fascinating inventory, tons of knowledge, very friendly, but I only found one coin. I was like, I'm going to buy at least one coin just because I'd feel bad to waste somebody's time, talk for 5 minutes. And I think a lot of the kind of offerings that were available just weren't really at a point where, they were often generally coins where I'd be selling it for a lot less than that. And so that kind of gave me some conviction around, hey, it makes sense to try to keep building the business because it feels like we can maybe undercut a lot of the competition that, if you're not super frequently replenishing your stock, it can be challenging to, sell coins at fairly slim margins because it's going to be challenging to then go and find more coins to sell after you recoup the funds. So I think that's also a big difference in why there's a lot of kind of folks with coin shops that might go to a show, whereas for ancient coin dealers, a little bit less likely to just offload all of your material because it's not like things are just walking in off the streets and heading to you. Ancient coin dealers, I sense, do a lot more dealer-to-dealer transactions. There was also some great, connecting with actually John Danruther, JD of JDRC. He was one of the founders of PCGS. He has a great Slab Lab episode, and he had told me to go to the show after I met him at Witter Coin about a month ago at this point. And so we're actually going to connect and hopefully do some kind of show and tell. His stories are incredible. Listening to him just talk and recount some of the immense and incredible knowledge that he has over the years is, I literally was there for hours, and I was totally captivated just listening to him speak about all the treasures and even just little pieces of advice and fun, recollections of things from his many decades in coin dealing. And so I'm really hoping that I can make some, again, show and tell or interview content with him. So again, really fun from an interpersonal perspective for me to go and catch up with old friends, talk to new ones, and meet some additional dealers and even just collectors that I don't, there's no commercial intent, but get to learn a ton from. So super, super recommend. I saw Wes from Americana Rare Coin. We had seen each other 7 years ago. I had him on the show, on my YouTube channel probably 4 years ago, but he's since taken over Americana Rare Coin and seems to be crushing it. He has awesome inventory. He did have some ancients, but that's another example of, I was basically saying, look, I could buy these from you, but if you purchased them out of a collection that walked into your store, it makes sense to try to retail them for the most that you have possible, that you can possibly reasonably ask, because people can come along and it's not like you're going to be able to get more of it super easily. These were some great pieces. I'm talking about like beautiful Ephesus tetradrams, Sicilian tetradrams. The collector that he had purchased the collection from clearly knew what they were doing. And so, it was just awesome to catch up with him. And then as I think there was also World Numismatics, really exciting. Was great to talk with them. Didn't purchase, but we may be able to also get, I believe it's Kyle Pontario, who I want to say Rick Pontario I met at the New York International Show. He's one of the kind of high up folks at Stax Bowers, really has built, and I'm not sure exactly if they purchased his firm or how it all went down or did a partnership, but he knows a ton about world and ancient coins, and so I'm really hoping that could be maybe a third or fourth person that we connect to do some videos with in the future. So that's my show report. Again, cannot emphasize enough how fun it is, whether you're going with a kind of commercial and like intent to buy coins and resell them, just make some new contacts, make some friends. It felt like I got all of the above, and I really appreciate about the coin hobby and that I really just get to do all of it. Like I get to have that, scratch the itch of going and buying and flipping some stuff. Also get to talk to people that I've known for a little bit or for a long time. So that being said, don't want to hold up the unboxing. I think it's really cool. Again, $7,245. See if you think I got a good deal. I have a feeling that you'll think I came out pretty good. So anyways, let's get right into it, as I always say. And here we've got everything in front of us. And again, I think this is going to be awesome. So I'll first show off quickly here. Here's the one that I picked up for about $18. This one looks like it may be repatinated, but this would have been struck during Jesus' lifetime, 9 to 12 AD, by the Roman procurator under Roman rule of Judea, Marcus Ambibulus. And so you have this kind of grain ear or barley ear, and then this kind of palm tree looking tree, and then I think that's the date underneath it. But it's so interesting to think of Jesus as a teen walking around in Judea while this would have been struck. So super fascinating, very interesting. Next though, let's dive right in. This was a pretty big pickup, and we'll start here. There's a ton of different salvages that I was able to get some coins from. So these are going to be Mughal Empire, so that's going to be, I believe, a Muslim empire within India. These were by the Great Bass's Reef in Sri Lanka, and so these are dated to, I want to say, around like 1702, but they'd have a bunch of local script and Taj Mahal treasure. Again, would have been a couple of clumps that ended up in museums, but we get to own a bunch of the other ones. So very interesting. There's also going to be some Bradenhoff duets in the Mozambique Channel, and there were over 5,000 or around 5,000 gold ducats on that ship, but these were recovered around 1986, and they're going to have the beautiful, they've got these rosettes around the date, but 1752, so it makes sense that these would have been struck the year prior. And then there's that interesting kind of shipwreck effect from being at the bottom of the sea for so long. And so I think I picked up 3 of those. All of them are going to be Zealand Mint. which is going to be relevant for one of the later coins that we picked up. There's also a Consolacion. I think, do we have, we have, wow, more than I remember. We got, is that 4 or was there 1-8? No, I think they're all 4 reals. And they're all in fairly decent condition. But these would have been off of Ecuador, so Spanish coins, and these are all 4 real cobs. You can see fairly clearly on the reverse there the cross design. It may appear a little different in each of these. Super clear there, that 4 coming through strong. And then from a date perspective, it looks like this one is 67 to 81. Maybe that PE, we're able to eliminate some of the other years down to 78, and then this one's a little bit more specific from 79 to 81 with PV. And so again, love getting these shipwreck types in, and that was a big theme of this group. We also got an 8 real from the Conception shipwreck in 1641, which would have been off of Hispaniola. I think that's the Dominican Republic, Haiti island. Great piece of shipwreck treasure. And then there's a couple of 4 real examples to go along with it. That one looks pretty large for being a 4 real. And then in back of that, we also, so a lot of those were Spanish shipwrecks. We did pick up a couple of Dutch ones as well. So this is the Vliegend in Zeeland, Netherlands, one of the big provinces within the Netherlands. These are all in fairly challenged condition, I would say, but I still wanted to add them to the inventory. The nice thing about these is that they're fairly large pieces, but these are all gonna, I'll start these all below $100 a piece, so much more affordable, though unfortunately a lot less detail. There's also some Kampen shipwrecks. So 1627 is when this one sunk. There you can see 1616, you have a lion, the Liondalder on one side, and then you have the plumed head facing right there on a Kampen dollar. This one has a big scratch in it. This one looks like toned, and it's really pretty looking, I think. A little bit of a planchet, like a flan flaw, but that one is really, really pretty in super nice shape. Some of the others kind of vary in condition, I think, but again, very fascinating, and I love that this is like a massive size silver coin, with 400 or 398 technically year old provenance to a shipwreck. After that, we're going to get into some of the other ones. This is a 300 plus year old 1711 De Liefde that would have sunk off the coast of Scotland, and so they're a beautiful eye appeal on a lot of these coins. This one again dated to 1711. I just think it looks fantastic. And Utrecht Mint, which is Dutch. We also have the SS New York shipwrecked 8 reals from, I think, ZS, I'm pretty sure Zacatecas Mint. And so it's a pretty worn item, but it's off the coast of Galveston in the Gulf of Mexico / Gulf of America. And so maybe that Gulf of America, fits the SS New York, though, again, not trying to be political, whatever. Maybe ignore that. Maybe I should cut that out. But I'll probably leave it in anyways. The point is, very interesting piece of history and Gulf history from a shipwreck perspective. We also have the Marestein shipwreck in South Africa. And so it really just reminds me of how far all around the world coins have traveled, and shipwrecks basically have occurred. These Marestein ones, this one's surviving at this stage. What is that? 394 years old. That's old, and would have sunk in 1702. So it was already 70 years old at the time it got on the boat. Here we have the Elingamite in New Zealand. There was tons that were sunk. This is going to be a 2 shilling or florin coin. You can see Queen Victoria, an old head. She's facing left, so that's why 1893 to 1901. And again, it wrecked in 1902. Can we see the date? I think the date would be like down there, so we can't quite make it out. But it's a fairly valuable shipwreck, and I'm really excited to check it out. And then last but not least, the Princess Luisa, which was in Cape Verde. And so there's going to be a lot of the Spanish pillar and real cob coins but would have been a British East India Company ship. So those are some of the one-offs that I'm just kind of excited to try. So I think we have a really strong shipwreck showing. After that, we also did get a bunch of these cool, like, Atocha pendants. So they were struck out of the bars that were found by Mel Fisher in a 1622 shipwreck, very famous with, there's an old, very old pricing on it. Some of them are gold plated, but they found a bunch of silver bars at the bottom of the ocean along with a lot of silver coins. And so they melted them down and then struck, like, restrike, whether it was earrings or, doubloon style pendants, all that kind of thing. And so we got a nice mix of those. Some of them are really pretty. Some great coin jewelry. If you're a jewelry wearing kind of person, or you just want to collect some silver that, the Atocha coins are way more expensive than is affordable for most folks. So those jewelry pieces are generally in the 2 digits instead of the 4 digits from a dollar point of view. So anyways, we also got a couple of world coins that were sitting out. We had a 1764 Prussian 12 in a thaler. Not exactly. I don't remember the ruler. Prussia. I'll say it right there. Friedrich. Then we had a 1842 2.5 silver groschen from Prussia as well, and then a 1/6 thaler from 1815. Really pretty from Berlin. There's also a Prussian 1867 2.5 silver groschen in pretty good shape. We also see a 1907 mark. There's an 1875 mark. There is a nice Greek 1964 30 drachma, which is, it's interesting how England actually had a lot of claims to, like, the Ionian Islands, so they strike some cool coins there. This was just, like, good eye appeal, 1955 Canadian 50-cent coin. Had to pick it up. Same thing here with a 1959, and then we had a little bit of, Australian silver 1925 shilling. Here's a 1918 Canadian 25 cent. I thought it was just in really nice shape. Tell me if I'm wrong here. 1919 Newfie 50-cent coin, also in pretty decent eye appeal. Then a very nice looking 1896 with Queen Victoria on the front, and then 1884 florin in solid shape, and then I think 4 Civil War tokens. We had a tradesman, a patriotic token. These would have been struck circa 1863 as, that one's also 1863, a French Liberty Head Army and Navy token, as there was a lower availability of coinage. And then right here, another patriotic Our Army, very similar to the princess type gold dollar, and then a Knickerbocker currency, 1 cent IOU for 1 cent. Just, again, great variety. Last but not least, we're going to take open this, which should be all the same type, or I think 2 different types, but very similar. They're going to be some of the South African crown size currency with, I really should know what, I'm thinking like elk or gazelle, but it might be some specific animal that I'm just forgetting. 1957, so we have a couple of the 50% silver versions. I know I also have a couple of the crowns. Yeah, like there's the ship crown 1952. We got a couple of 1952s in here, and then we have some of the older 80% silver 1948s. Some of these have a little bit of tone. All are King George the Sixth, who would have been 1936 to 1952. And then probably the later ones here would be 1952 and on are going to show Queen Elizabeth. So interesting difference, but just makes sense from thinking of what rulers are in power at what point. Big silver coins though, and with silver highs, they're certainly not cheap to acquire, but definitely exciting to pick up at the same time. So anyways, super fun hunt. Let me do a little spread here because, well, maybe I'll have it at the end, but needless to say, I think this was a super successful show visit. Picked up a lot of great coins that I'm excited to resell, potentially tuck away. I might tuck away some of the shipwreck stuff. Really like the Judean one. I think the Atochas are great as well. And I'll also look forward to inventorying all these. I don't know. Feels like getting some great inventory here, and that makes me excited. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching the video.
Make sure to head on over to treasuretown.com and sign up for our email list to stay up to date on everything that's happening, whether it's auction updates, exciting new inventory drops, coin collecting news, or general informational resources. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on another one.